Mmm.
You?
Oh my gosh.
Class. Ebbe. Kael. Clark. Ebbe. Ebbe. Oh. Ebbe.
Oh, is it started? It started!
Oh, gosh.
Yikes. Okay, so today we are on day 314 of the Educator Chipotle Challenge, and we have some table turning that has happened because I am the interviewer, and today, as our very special and honorable interviewee, we have the one and only
Ebbe, aka Miss Ebbe, for 7th through 9th graders at Da Vinci Charter Academy Junior High in Davis, California, where I have been a school counselor for 5 years now. And previous to that was a school counselor at 3 to 6 elementary schools in Blackfoot, Idaho.
Excellent. And you may recognize me from a previous interview, and also, Kael, by the way, and also as the challenger of the Educator Chipotle. What challenge? Well, at least the challenger of eating Chipotle for 365 days. And as you all know, many of you know, Kayla, Miss Ebbe, has taken that challenge and turned it into something fantastic, and has turned it into an opportunity to raise money to give back to the community, to the educators, to the children, and it's a really wonderful thing. So,
Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. So today we're gonna hear a little bit about everything that Kayla's been asking everybody else for the past year. Just about. We're almost there.
Yeah.
We're on the final countdown. And so today we are gonna hear how she would answer those questions. So should we jump right into it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And we're back. Actually, we never left. Okay. So, all right. So, Kayla,
Yes.
could you please name and describe one or more educators who have had a positive impact in your life and how they made a difference for you?
I'd be happy to, Kael.
Well, thank you so much.
Happy to. A number of educators have had a positive impact on my life, and a few of them to note are Mr. and Mrs. Kruse. I had them for 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grades at Bayport, which then went to Anderson Elementary School. And they were consistently supportive and present with their students. They demonstrated that they cared about us in the way that they interacted with us on a daily basis, when we were with other students, when we had parent-teacher conferences. I just remember feeling so comfortable and safe with them, and that they they were people that I could rely on. They were so dedicated to being educators. It came out in their lessons, in the interactions with students. And I remember Mrs. Kruse telling my class, I can't remember which year it was, 4th or 5th grade, I'm pretty sure, because then I had Mr. Kruse for 6th grade. So 4th or 5th grade, Mrs. Kruse told our class that she would be at our high school graduation, and of all of the things that I remember in my years of education, that is one of the few things that really sticks out as a very distinct memory. And I believed it. I don't know how my classmates felt about that and if that resonated with them as much as it has for me, but that was such an honor. You think, oh, maybe teachers say that to many of their classes, and maybe they follow through, maybe they don't. But I believed that she would follow through because she and Mr. Kruse followed through, were pretty disciplined and kept their word from what I can remember. And lo and behold, both she and Mr. Kruse came to our high school graduation, Stillwater Area High School, in 2006. And I invited them to my grad party, and they came. And I know my friend Marnie, who at this point will have been interviewed. I remember a picture with her and Mrs. Kruse embracing each other after a hug, and them just looking at each other because they hadn't seen each other for a while. And like, that is the epitome of like how I have felt so connected throughout the years that I had Mrs. and Mr. Kruse, and to this day, it just feels so good to have educators, to have had educators that care so much, and to go the extra mile, not because they had to, but because they sincerely wanted to. I know that has inspired me to do some of the things that I've done in my role as a school counselor, because I genuinely care and I want students to feel that. Similarly to how I felt with Mr. and Mrs. Kruse. Mr. Kruse had mentioned in his interview about parent-teacher conferences. Like, it's incredible how much of an impact you can have on so many people and remember distinct details about a person and about their family or about their experience. So thank you so much for demonstrating that you care so much, and for following through with your word, and for going above and beyond your role as an educator to support us. The other person that I want to shout out to is my high school counselor, Becky Keller at the time, now Becky Hopper. I believe you're still at Stillwater High School as a school counselor. And I remember you supported me with kind of navigating what I wanted to do after high school, and helping me sort all of my thoughts and dreams and goals and aspirations. You being there for me. I didn't know at the time that I wanted to become a school counselor, but looking back on that, I know that some people don't know who their elementary, junior high, or high school counselor is, and I'm actually one of them. I don't remember who my elementary, if I had an elementary school counselor, or my junior high school counselor was. So I think it speaks to how visible you were and approachable you were, and open to welcoming students in, that you're somebody that I remember along my path as being a positive impact and making a difference in how I'm a school counselor at this point. Another person from high school that was very influential and sticks out as a force to be reckoned with was Mrs. Stippel. You were an amazing example of a fierce woman who was so passionate about your subject area of English and just life, and you challenged us and supported us and cared deeply about us, and that was evident in the lessons that you taught, in how you interacted with us in a way that, again, goes back to relationships being super important. I remember it was either the end of junior year or senior year that you had us do an activity where we set goals for the next year or the next semester, and I'm pretty sure it was for my senior year, and it was an open-ended project where we could create what we wanted to and how we saw ourselves in the next year, and I still have that. I felt so inspired by your passion for teaching, and that was such a memorable time in class with you. But also that activity helped me just continue to open my perspective of what my goals were and where I saw myself towards the end of high school. And you were just supportive and encouraging, and you have been ever since. I mean, Matt and I have come to visit you at school, and you remember us and remembered some parts about our time with you in your class and at Stillwater High School. It's just a testament to how much you care. We are in Bush Library at Hamline University right now, and a few that come to mind in this physical location are Dr. Jean Strait, or Dr. J, who was in the education department at Hamline and was also the leader, facilitator of the Each One Teach One experience service learning project that we traveled to New Orleans a few years after Hurricane Katrina happened to do relief cleanup and painted houses, and I think brought school supplies to a school and was just lending a helping hand to the community. She was leading by example by taking us out into the community to serve and to feel what it's like to have an impact beyond the classroom. And at that time, I didn't know that I wanted to be an educator myself, but her dedication to her students, to the profession, to making a difference in the Hamline community and education community, future educators, and to the world as a whole was quite inspiring to me. And to lead by example as a person who is out in her profession was great to witness, and just see how somebody could be so comfortable with who they are and be so well respected in the Hamline community and education community was helpful for me to see as I was just coming out as a queer woman, lesbian. I had a few classes with her sophomore year. That was right around the time that I was realizing that I'm gay. And she was one of those people that I looked up to in that regard. She's just a great human all around. And Sharon Preves, who is a sociology professor and department chair, and I think, forgive me, Sharon, I think you have progressed to a different role, possibly beyond being department chair at Hamline University, but you have been such an instrumental person in my personal and professional growth. I remember sitting in your office and figuring out what I wanted to do after Hamline. In my career, I was trying to figure out how to incorporate my passion and skills of helping people and listening and wanting to be part of people's story and journey and help guiding them along the way to figure out how to navigate life's ups and downs. And you were another educator that really demonstrated through your teaching how passionate you were about sociology and just the world, and helping us as students see through a sociological lens and to question things and to be curious and to ask good questions, to figure out how to analyze things in our society and how to take action to change them or to put things into perspective. And aside from being an educator, as a human, you are so compassionate and kind and thoughtful, and I know that I am who I am today a great deal because of you, Sharon Preves, and you, Dr. Strait, two of the most influential educators, and I just feel so privileged and honored to have been a student of yours and to be in this space right now at Hamline University. I mean, there's so many reasons why Hamline University, like this guy for one, who made those 4 years so pivotal in my life, and I just think of so fondly. And I aspire to be an educator who can have such a great impact on students like you have had on me. I will take those experiences. I may not fully remember all of the lessons that you taught us or the texts that we read in your classes, but I remember how it felt to be in your presence and how comfortable it felt and how you pushed us to grow and to become better humans. When I was in grad school in Portland, Oregon at Lewis and Clark College, of the several educators there, Bill Layton was an incredible support for me as I was navigating building the strength and the courage and being okay with the vulnerability that is standing in front of people. I know that, or I can imagine that people watching the Educator Chipotle Challenge, that like, I can be a ham behind the camera, but it's taken me years, and still when I'm in front of people at school, when I'm in front of parents, I still get quite nervous and anxious about speaking in front of people, even though I've been doing it for the last 5 years now. Public speaking is still something that I am working on, and Bill Layton shared some of his own experiences with public speaking and just navigating the challenges that come up with and the rewards of being a school counselor. And I remember Bill gave me this, I wish I would have brought it at this point to share. I chose a stone from these options that he had, whatever spoke to me as a a worry stone or something that I could hold in my pocket when I was in front of our classmates to help me feel at ease and better about sharing whatever I was going to share and not thinking too much, because I don't do that enough already, right? And put it in this little sock, little stocking looking sock. That was so helpful for me to have something tangible, even if it didn't work all the time and I didn't always remember to put it in my pocket when I was doing presentations. The fact that he went out of his way to acknowledge that I was having a difficult time with that skill and to try to support me through that experience and help me grow was super meaningful. And Bill, I still have that stone and I still have that sock to carry the stone in, and I have since gathered stones to share with my students who are feeling anxious or nervous about public speaking or totally separate challenges that they face in their experience. And you definitely hold a very special place in my heart and my experience leading up to being a school counselor, and I thank you for that. Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's all good.
Is it?
Yes.
Everything?
Just about. Many things. Most things. A lot of things. Not everything.
Yeah.
But, that's life.
Yeah.
There's things.
This is true.
Yep. From your perspective, as a student turned educator, what resources are necessary to have at school that support students' mental, social, and emotional health and well-being?
Thank you for asking.
Yes, you're welcome.
Resources that are necessary to have are the educators who will stand outside their door and greet individual students, get to know them, get to know what they're interested in, get to know what their strengths are, what their areas for growth are, what their learning style is, to help them along their unique path, I think is one of the most critical resources that students have access to at school. I have found as a student and as an educator, when educators are not as tuned in to the interpersonal relationship with students, that not as much learning happens or not as much connection to school happens from the student perspective. When you care and when you show that you care through various ways of being that are unique to you, you can get, not always, but you can often get a student who comes from a background that is not supporting education or curiosity and creativity and emotional mental health and well-being, to come out of those circumstances when they're at school and really connect with the school family and school community. And it really makes a big difference. Beyond the teachers building those relationships, I believe that each person at a school plays a role in students' well-being, whether it's the lead cook in the cafeteria, to the janitor, to the campus safety supervisor, to people in the office. The secretaries are some of the glue that holds the school community together, and they build such a great relationship to the point that sometimes I'm having to set boundaries with students coming into the office because they care so much about students, the secretaries, the administration, and the school counselors, really getting to know students on an individual basis. I think, Kael, in your interview, you talked about some ideas of, if we were in an ideal world, holistic approach, teach explicitly how to utilize coping strategies, how to tune into your thoughts and your feelings and channel those productively, and how to deal with it when it's unproductive. And having a wellness center on campus, I think, would be amazing, because it's not just the school counselor, not just the principal or vice principal who is, or the teachers who are serving students and supporting them with their mental, social, emotional health and well-being. It's a collective effort. Every person in that school is important. Everybody plays a role in supporting students through the triumphs and the challenges and the bumps in the road, creating a culture that is as inclusive as humans can be, and having those difficult conversations that revolve around mental health challenges or of the social difficulties that can come up in a school setting, to be a community that embraces the vulnerability that is required to boost up the well-being of the entire school.
From your perspective right now, is like maybe the number one thing that, if you're like, if I could snap my fingers and change this thing tomorrow about either whether it's if we had more of this as a resource in school, or say we don't even have it at all, and if I could just change this thing, like what's kind of this number one thing that, like, from your experience, you're like, man, I wish we had? What is that?
My school, or my district specifically, I think that one thing would be a wellness center where the school counselors are, where mental health therapist is, where there's a behaviorist, the nurse, that there is a school nurse full-time on every campus, so that it
Just one?
At least one. I think at least one full-time school nurse would be exponentially more beneficial than what we have right now, which is 2 nurses sharing a position and being there twice a week or once a week. So we have a school nurse 3 days a week.
Okay.
And then other people are put into that role the other days of the week. So a wellness center where there's multiple people to support the well-being, really, of everybody on campus, not just students, but adults and families alike. Most of the professional developments that I've been in throughout the country, whether it's through the National Association of School Counselors or California specifically, that there's more need for support in multiple areas, not just mental health, than humans available to support. So a wellness center, I think, would be the hub for those humans to be available for that support, so that it doesn't fall on the administration or the school counselors or the campus safety supervisor or the secretaries to quite frankly play some of the roles that are not part of their role entirely. I mean, they definitely, like I said, play a role in supporting the well-being of students just by being there and by being caring and compassionate humans.
How would students like navigate that in terms of like within the structure that there is, like, is there time for students to access that? Do things need to shift to allow students to utilize that resource? Or do you see the way that it is kind of structured, you know, they'd be able to perfectly fine utilize that?
As it is right now, I believe there's a structure already in place where students could access those humans in a wellness center just as they would come to the school counselor throughout the day. It's not always ideal. I believe that every class is important. There's multiple conversations happening about the timing structure of when and how long students go to classes, and this resource of the wellness center, it would be most beneficial if the timing of everything were to change too. It's not going to be a one size fits all, but if there was a block where you know that you have this time frame to go see the counselor, to go see the speech and language pathologist or the nurse, I think that would be helpful. We've definitely got some room to grow.
Sure. I would like to hear from your perspective as a grad student, if you can recall and go back to that space, resources that you would have liked to have had, or
that I did have.
That either that you had, that you were like, wow, so helpful, glad this is here, or if there were times where you're like, ooh, I wish we had this component.
Let's see. We had an opportunity towards the end of our schooling to talk to a panel of former Lewis and Clark grads who were in the field of school counseling, to get a sense of what they were doing that perhaps we didn't have full training for. And that's not to say that Lewis and Clark was inadequate, because I don't believe that any program can fully prepare you for what the field is actually going to be like. But to have that opportunity to ask questions, to get a sense of what those requirements would be from a school district's perspective, and like where our degree would transfer to, was helpful. Have people to talk to about financial aid. I did not utilize scholarships nearly as much as I probably could have to help lessen the burden of $176,900 student loan debt that I have. Having resources that were more accessible and explicitly mentioned, and for me myself to have taken more initiative to seek those out. Having smaller class sizes, not only at Lewis and Clark, but also Hamlin, I thought were super beneficial to get to know Sharon Preves, Dr. Jean Strait, Bill Layton, Laura Peterson, and Heather Hadjibra. Like all of those people I got to know on a more personal level, I believe, because we had class sizes of 20 or less. Sometimes at Hamlin, I think my psychology class was maybe 50, and at that point, I felt like there was less opportunity to have connectiveness among classmates and educator. While I was at both universities, I utilized the counseling support and for personal challenges. And when I was at Hamlin, when I was trying to decide what I was going to major in, which I decided was sociology and minored in psychology. I went to a career counselor and a mental health therapist on campus to take a interest inventory, to just process verbally with somebody what my strengths were, what my interests were, and what professions related to those areas. And Becky Keller helped me with that in high school. I always thought that those were fun.
What would you say specifically at your school and in your school district now is like the outside of like you mentioning like everyone like being important and playing the role and just like basically not being able to, you know, not downplaying the incredible significance that every single person plays. Outside of that, what would you say as like the best thing that your school offers or that the district offers, if that makes more sense? Like if you were like, we do this really well, what is like the first thing that comes to mind?
At Da Vinci, we do relationships and caring about kids better than I've ever known any school or any district. Aside from my own personal experiences with those individual educators, Da Vinci cares tremendously about their students. One of the pillars of learning that I've gained through experience as an educator and as a student is that relationships matter so much. Like relationships. They're at the core of everything that we do as humans. And my team of educators at Da Vinci care very much about each individual student. We'll get to know them on a personal level beyond their abilities as a student, because they care about them as a whole person, and that is one of the many reasons we have such a highly desired program. And next to that, I think, is the project-based learning style of pedagogy. It allows students to tap into their innovative, creative, imaginative thought process and whether they are social butterflies or they really need some alone time to recharge. People from all areas of the spectrum find success with project-based learning at Da Vinci. So relationships between educators and students, and the project-based learning. You asked for one, but I gave you two.
That's great. That's great. Hello.
Hello, friend.
Yes. Hello. What advice would you share with your teenage self? Or advice for other students?
To lean into the discomfort of getting to know who you are and embrace all of who you are to the extent that you can, and to utilize your resources, whether it be your close friend or friends, your educators, your parents, your grandma, anybody in your life that you trust, to talk through and process anything that you're experiencing has been one of the ways that I've been able to grow and challenge myself and challenge my thoughts and perspective. Life is a series of experiences and moments, and they ebb and flow, and I am still learning how to surf the waves of life. And when I was a teenager, I felt like life was pretty darn good. I was pretty happy-go-lucky, pretty high on life, and optimistic and hopeful. And then bouts of depression or anxiety came through, and I am still navigating how to work through those experiences and those moments. What's been helpful throughout that process is acknowledging that those are part of my experience, talking to other people, and doing my best to work on myself. There were times when I was a teenager that I thought and I believed that I didn't care much about what other people thought. I don't think that that's ever fully true. To this day, I can say that, like, to not care so much about what other people think, but at the end of the day, I believe that we all do, to some degree, care about and seek the approval of other people, and whether that's super healthy or beneficial, it's up for discussion. But I've been as true to myself, to who I am, to all parts of who I am, to the best of my knowledge and my ability at most given points throughout my life. I'm continuing to learn what that looks like. So whatever it looks like for you, if that feels, or when that feels comfortable for you, I know that has been one of the most influential ways for me to live my best life, is to keep it real and to check myself when I'm not being real, and for other people to check me when I'm not being real, and to, like, when you were asking me earlier, like checking in about, is that actually how you feel? Like making sure that people feel as comfortable and safe around you to be authentic and to say it like it is, and to effectively communicate, I think is one of the ways that you are going to feel most fulfilled in life. When we were getting real excited about being adults, when we were kids, I don't believe that they quite told us what it would be like on this side of the table. And I gotta tell you, it's been fun and it's been real, but I gotta go now. I gotta go. On a daily basis, I have to remind myself to be creative, to unleash to unleash the imagination, because adulthood can really swipe in and shoot, I see young people, I see teenagers, like, taking on the burden of adulthood at age 12 and 13, and adults, I don't believe that that's entirely okay. I get that we need to teach and lead by example of discipline and boundaries and responsibilities and all the things, and how to be independent humans. But I strongly believe we need to let kids be kids and not push them into adulthood quicker than they need to, because I feel grateful that it's a combination of so many things. My environment, the people that have been in my environment throughout my life, and my playful, youthful personality from childhood to now has helped me embrace that side of me. But I think that many adults are unhappy because they have lost their sense of youth or playfulness or creativity and imagination. And Kael, I've said it before and I will say it right now and again, throughout our life that you challenging me to eat Chipotle once a day for a year and then created this Educator Chipotle Challenge has helped me unleash the creativity and like playfulness and youthfulness. And this challenge has brought me back to the groundedness that I have felt throughout my life of like, life is good. There's so much fulfillment here and between people and connectedness and like being able to share moments with others that I find so fulfilling, and that this challenge has not only challenged me to eat Chipotle, which I gotta tell you, friend, that's not been really the challenge in this whole challenge. I mean, 314, like, let's go. Like, when is this interview gonna be done so I can go have my burrito or my bowl or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
At Chipotle. But the real challenges have been to slow down and remember what's important. And for me, what is important is the relationships and maintaining and sustaining those relationships and putting forth the effort that is required to do that. And when I've been so busy with being what I feel is more than a full-time school counselor and doing the Educator Chipotle Challenge and being an ambassador for the Davis Chamber of Commerce and I think that's everything. Coming back to maintaining those relationships has been super important, and being able to play and be youthful. And so,
Kids, if you're watching this,
and adults, if you are watching this, you are hearing my stomach growl a little bit, but what I really want to tell you is to try not to allow the seriousness that is around us to take away the innocence, the creativity, the youthfulness, the play, the connectedness that we can and we need to feel and to have in our lives.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Embrace it.
And for some of you, for everybody, that's on a different scale, and I acknowledge that. So, do you, boo? Beautiful. It goes without saying, and I can't go without saying
Love it.
that you just gotta keep it real.
Yes.
Just gotta keep it real. To whatever extent that you can and feel comfortable with.
Call Bill.
Yes.
Don't laugh, it's not funny. Okay. The answer is no. So, what types of challenges do you see students facing, and how can we support them?
I see students facing mental health challenges like anxiety, depression, and ADHD, dyslexia, a range of challenges that affect their emotional, mental health, and well-being, their physical well-being, and in turn, those affect their academic success. And I haven't found or figured out the perfect solution or equation of supports, but I can speak to what I've experienced so far, that when people have solid relationships with peers and adults, that it seems to help alleviate some of those challenges, especially when they're in the peak of some of those challenges. people that they know they can trust will listen, provide support. They feel safe and comfortable enough to be vulnerable and share those challenges that they are experiencing. I have found that listening and asking if they know what they need. What are you hoping to get out of our conversation, so that they feel like they're in the driver's seat somewhat, to determine what they need, because at a point they're not fully developed yet to fully understand what they need or what's happening for them, but sometimes they know more than we give them credit for, and asking for their input I've noticed has been helpful, and that they have felt supported. Being consistently present for them. The family role is incredibly important. I know that as teenagers, they're sometimes pushing away their adult supports, educators alike, not just parents, but those are some of the times that they need you the most, and they're not necessarily going to express it explicitly.
Oh man. All right. What question are we asking?
The last one.
Oh.
On that one right there.
Okay. Kayla,
Yes.
what advice do you have for an aspiring educator?
Go after it. Do not let whatever it is that you may or may not have fear around, you stop yourself from going after this career if this is what your heart is really set on, and try it out. I mean, if you are wanting to make a difference in people's lives and to share your passion in a school setting, go for it. Trust your gut. Accept that you are going to make mistakes. Reach out to fellow educators, and if they don't pair you with a mentor, you create one yourself. Build a community within your school and your program, and I know it's been super helpful over the years to stay connected with former Lewis and Clark grads in my cohort to bounce ideas off of and get resources from if there's something that comes up that I have not experienced yet, to utilize professional development opportunities as much as possible. Check out all of the opportunities you have for financial aid. If financial aid is something that you will be applying for and receiving, so that you can go into this profession not for the income but for the outcome, and make enough income that you feel like it can be worth it. I believe that it can. There's just different things that you can do along the way to make it so that you don't get burned out. So take care of yourself and take mental health days. You have days off for a reason. Be as much yourself with your students as possible. Try to connect with each of them to some degree, and trust that you're going to make an impact, and you can have a ripple effect of difference. So go after it.
If you had to fill in the blank, my favorite thing about being an educator is, what is that?
Building relationships. Period.
Yeah.
Just kidding, not period, exclamation point. That is one of the most rewarding parts about being a school counselor, is being able to connect with students, and on a daily basis, whether it's high fives, handshakes, looks in the in the face as you know who you are, not being in class. We have that like understanding and that just kind of connection. I love that like fills my bucket like nobody's business. Like if I'm having a crummy day, or like if some of the challenges, like seeing students struggle with mental health difficulties or things at home that are not great and painful for them, I feel pain and sadness for them. Those rewarding things can help turn that upside down fairly quickly, because it just feels so good. Having philosophical conversations or conversations about things that they are dealing with in their life and that they feel comfortable coming to me to share those things. Being able to see my students progress through high school and watch them graduate. The connections I have felt with students in the last 6 years of being a school counselor and being an intern and a fellow at McVeigh Youth Partnership at Hamlin University. Those relationships are a big part of why I'm a school counselor, because I really enjoy being what I aspire to be as a consistent, positive, reliable adult in young people's lives, and one that listens and tries to meet students where they're at and to be a part of their story and to help them navigate this beautiful thing we call life.
Let's say it is your last day in your profession, or it's like your last day in your profession, and maybe you're retiring, maybe you're going somewhere else or something else, but it's a very different role than what you've been, than the way you've been an educator in these most recent years. And you have 60 seconds to share your kind of final, here's what I want all of you to know when you're addressing your students. What do you say to them? Go.
You are worthy, you are beautiful, you are enough. You can do this. You have resources, you are not alone. I love you, and I love you, and I love you. Once your school counselor or your educator, always your educator, reach out to me anytime you need. I'm here for you. And I believe that you have the power within you, and from the resources that you have, I believe that you have what it takes to make a difference in this world. It takes one idea, one action to make a difference for many people.
You're 4 seconds over, I think that's okay. Cool. In a space, if you had a PS, is there anything else in a non-rushed way that you wish you would have just said?
Thank you for being part of my life story and some very transformative years. And I have been in this profession as a school counselor, as an educator, because I love working with young people. I love building those relationships with you, and I appreciate how each one of you has shown up and shared space with me, and that has helped me grow as a person and as a school counselor. I hope that me being in your life has had some level of impact, as you being in my life has had a lasting impact. Go off and change the world. I'm proud of you. I love you. Keep it real.
And so, Kayla, who did you just shout out to today?
Mr. and Mrs. Kruse, Mrs. Keller, Mrs. Stippel, Dr. J, aka Dr. Jean Strait, Sharon Preves, and Bill Layton. Something that all those educators have in common is that they all took the time to get to know me, get to know other students on a personal level, not just as a student, not just as an athlete. Got to know my strengths, got to know my areas of growth, challenged me in those areas of growth, and helped me harness those strengths and encouraged me to dream big and to pursue those dreams, and relationship matters. So to all of you educators that I've mentioned and have not mentioned, but you know that you've made a difference in my life. You have impacted many, many people in your career. Talk about a ripple effect of impact. Now I'm an educator, it just continues. So thank you. I love you.
All right. We want to thank you for joining us for this very special Educator Shout Out interview with the one and only Kayla Ebbe. And on day 314, I just want to say, dude, I'm super proud of you for all of the work that you put into this. And I know I said it last time, but I will reiterate it. And it's different also getting to sit here listening to you share everything you've just shared from this whole interview experience. Yeah, dude. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be the one to interview you.
It only seemed right.
Yeah, and it was really cool and powerful and meaningful to hear you speak from your heart around all of these things and all of these people, and I guess hearing how much you care about educators and knowing the impact that they make and everything that you're doing around this, and then hearing you talk about the impact that you have felt. To hear that coming from someone who also is an educator, it's really cool to have that both and dynamic. Mm-hmm. And it shows that you know what I mean? You're living out the appreciation that you've also received. Mm-hmm. And you're providing it and you've received it and you understand it and you know you completely get it, and I think that just makes it even more special what you're doing. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
None of this would be happening if you didn't go out on a whim in Davis, California, Chipotle, and say, I wonder if you could eat Chipotle every meal for 1 month or once a day for a year. Just opened up a whole new world. Thank you, because I wouldn't have been able to finish that. Yeah. A whole new world of like what I talked about earlier. Of as an adult, I have strived. Is that an intense of a word?
Sure.
Gosh, now as an adult, I question more things than I ever did as a teenager, and when I thought that I had stuff together. So I've strived as an adult to maintain this sense of creativity and play and imagination. I have felt like I can embrace that side of myself more with the ECC, and it's just brought a different, it's changed my daily life for a over a year, because I've been planning this since you challenged me in 2015, but it was like, it like reignited this just love of life and love of connecting with people and building relationships and like creating. I guess I don't know the last time that I felt so inspired and have unleashed this creativity. I mean, like there's definitely been times throughout the challenge that I've like been a little bit stumped on what I'm going to say each caption, but like it's been, for the most part, it's been an opportunity for me to just like kind of philosophize with people and just like put those ideas that we've talked about over the years and, you know, with other people in my experience about, and just like to share my thoughts and ideas in this type of outlet has been awesome. So all that to say, thank you for, you had no idea that I would run with that idea of yours.
Well, I'm glad that it's been something that's so fulfilling for you. Like, I think that's the part that matters the most, that it ended up being something that actually had a lot of meaning and created like all these different relationships and conversations and a chance for people to share like something and people that are meaningful to them, which you created all of that. Like, and so I'm just really glad that it's something that turned into, I don't know, it's just something so powerful and meaningful and significant. So,
thank you.
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you to all of the educators out there who are making an impact in people's lives, building relationships, and really showing up, not only to your life, but to positively influence somebody else's life. And that through this, I didn't know that I didn't know that one of my life goals was to get on the Ellen show, but Ellen, I'm not sure that I felt more compelled about anything, but I feel so hopeful that you will stumble upon this, or you've already stumbled upon this. Somebody on your team has already stumbled upon this Educator Chipotle Challenge and are just waiting for me to finish this. And by the time you watch this, I will have completed the Educator Chipotle Challenge, 365 days of eating Chipotle. Ellen, I want you to see this video and the Educator Chipotle Challenge because you are such an advocate for educators and students and education and about giving and spreading kindness and love, and the Educator Chipotle Challenge, aka ECC, is all about that. And I want the opportunity to share the Educator Chipotle Challenge on your platform with you and your viewers to expand the level of impact and awareness for how incredible many educators are out there, and to help them know and remember and realize their impact on people, to help people not in education to acknowledge their level of importance.
Alrighty, so that concludes the final Educator Shout Out Interview, which is a pretty big deal considering that you've been doing this for a year, and now it's your turn to answer all the questions and share everything that you feel and everything you appreciate about educators. Is there anything that I guess you want to say, just in kind of wrapping it all up and putting a nice little bow on it? And
a little bow tie?
Yeah.
Chipotle bow tie. Thank you so much to everybody. I mean, from Kael challenging me with the Chipotle Challenge, to Daniel, who created the ECC website that you see live right now, to Aaron Wedra, who created the ECC promo cards, and each person, whether you were a former or current student, current or former educator of mine, or somebody that I work with doing an Educator Shout Out Interview, to the crew in all of the Chipotles that I've visited, but most frequently at the Davis and Natomas locations, for being there, supporting me, cheering me on, making amazing food. Chipotle as a whole for supporting me in the ways that you have throughout this entire challenge and beforehand. To Matt Strong, who has helped create some flip books, and to all the people that have been at the ECC gatherings over this last year. I'm sure some of you are going to be glad when I don't come to lunch with Chipotle and be like, hey, you want to be in a photo? But y'all have been great sports, and I know you're going to ask me, so what are you going to have for a day 366? Probably Chipotle, but this time I won't have to post it or feel obligated to snap a photo of it.
I will. Just a thank you to you for giving everyone an opportunity to share about how people have impacted their lives, and an opportunity for each one of those people to then be given the extra appreciation, and hopefully like all of that has been able to, as other educators that maybe specifically haven't been named, you know, are watching this and see this, hopefully they can understand, and they can also feel the appreciation that all of these people have been giving and expressing around the role of being an educator. And so thank you for providing that platform for people.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely.
Kayla, what would you like to see happen next after the ECC is all wrapped up? And you know, what is your hope for the impact that it made, and what is your hope moving forward for just like the world around educators?
Hope for the impact that it made, that a big part of the ECC is giving and spreading love and kindness to educators and raising awareness of how important your role is, and to increase the awareness and access to mental health resources for students. And hope for the future that we continue increasing the appreciation for educators and demonstrating that through funding education programs and paying educators a livable wage, so that people don't have to create GoFundMes and challenges to support educators and the students that we serve, and to increase access to mental health resources and services on K-12 school campuses.
Oh, you're trying to get it again? How much I love this school. Lots of good memories.
I love this school.
Good feels.
We love Hamlin. Hamtown. The Educator Chipotle Challenge has been one of the greatest accomplishments of my life. And I have set out to do something and seen it through and done my very best with it. I've gone above and beyond and have remained as true as I believe I could be throughout the entire process, and achieved the goal that I set out to serve the educators that serve our students and the students that we serve.